Welcome back to Mr. B's math class. Today we're looking at 2.2 multiplying decimal numbers. So our student outcomes for today are I can use estimation to place a decimal point in a product, and I can multiply decimal numbers with and without a calculator. So let's take a look at our first example. So in example 1, it asks us to use estimation to place the decimal point. This is the same thing we just did in 2.1. So our question here has us looking at 2.2 multiplying by 1.8, and we have an answer of 3960. We need to decide based off estimation where the decimal will go in that question. So looking here, we're going to start with front-end estimation. That's what this FE stands for from 2.1. What that means, again, if you remember correctly, is we just write down the first digit and then everything after 0. Now when we look here already, the decimal is there, so there's nothing else after this, right? So it just stays 2. Multiplied by, and in our next one, the first digit is 1, but there's nothing else after it before the decimal, so it just stays as 2 times 1. So front-end estimation, our answer is 2. Now when we're looking at relative size, it's the same thing as last time as well. We're going to take a look at our numbers. So we have 2.2. We've got to decide 2.2 is probably in between, obviously, 2 and 3. So which is it closer to? Well, we know 2.2 be closer to 2, so we're going to keep it there. And 1.8 is between 1 and 2. When we look at it, 1.8 is actually closer to 2. So that's going to turn that into 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. Now we've got our two estimates here. Both are only one decimal place. So we know that, in these questions, the decimal would come right after, which means that in our answer, the decimal goes there. So our actual answer is 3.960. Now when we're looking at our two answers that we have here, 2 and 4, we're going to use that terminology from 2.1. Our first estimate of 2, we know that that is well below our 3.9060. So that means that this was an underestimate, that it was a little bit under the actual answer. And when we look at our second estimation, we got the answer of 4, which when we look up there, it's bigger than our actual one, not by much, but a bit, so it is our overestimate. So again, it's okay to get the wrong answer. That's what estimation is. It's just guessing. But it shows us how close we are to the actual answer here. So let's take a look at the next example. So example 2, it says 3.9 multiplied by 5.8 equals 22620. Again, I want you to figure out where the decimal point is going to be in our answer. So I want you to try this one. So what you can do is pause it right now and then hit play once you've tried it out yourself and see if your answer matches up to the actual answer. Okay, so let's take a look at our front-end estimation. We know that, again, you take the first digit, which is 3 in this case, and because nothing else is after, we don't have to worry about it. We just leave it. And here our front decimal is 5, so we'll take it. And again, there's no other digits after it, so we can just leave that as well. And we estimate 15. When we're looking at our relative size, we're going to look at it and say, okay, 3.9 is between 3 and 4. Well, it's closer to 4, obviously, so it's going to become 4. 4 multiplied by, well, 5.8 is between 5 and 6. And looking at it, it's actually closer to 6 as well. So we're going to round that up to 6. And that means our estimation is going to be 24. So in both of these estimations, we can see that we've got 2 digits in the decimal, 2 digits in the decimal. So we're going to put the decimal in that exact same spot. So our actual answer is 22.620. And again, we can see that our first estimate was under, so it was our underestimate. And 24 was a little over again, so it is our overestimate. So again, same thing as we did back in 2.1. Okay, so multiplying decimals. So we're going to look at this, calculating this without estimation and without a calculator. So the first thing we need to look at is the fact that our decimals don't need to line up. When we were doing it before, we were lining our decimals up. we don't need to worry about that here. So step 1, it says remove the decimals and multiply. Now I know that sounds weird, but just bear with me here. So we are going to write 58 and multiply by 15. We've taken this decimal out entirely, so it becomes 58 multiplied by 15. So when we do this, we are going to multiply it like we did in grade 6. So kind of a very easy review. So we're going to start here. Whenever we start with multiplication, we're obviously going to start on this side right here with that 5. So what we're going to do is say 5 times 8 is 40, so that gives us a 0. And we'll add our little 4 on top. 5 multiplied by 5 is 25, plus that 4 gives us 29 for an answer of 290. Then our second step is to add our placeholder in. And now we're dealing with our 1 over here. So we're going to start by saying 1 multiplied by 8, we know is just 8. And 1 multiplied by 5 is 5. So when we add these together, 0 plus 0 is 0. 9 plus 8 is 17. We place that 1 on top. And 5 plus 2 is 7, plus our little 1 becomes 8. So we get our answer of 870. Now for step 2, we'll write our 870 here. It says count how many digits come after the decimal or decimals in the question and put the decimal in that place for your answer. Now I know it's a little bit wordy, but I'll just kind of talk you through it here. What that means is if we go back up to our question here, we look at the one with a decimal in it. We've only got one number with a decimal, so we're only paying attention to this number right here. And when we look at it, we found our decimal, boom, right there, and there is only one digit after the decimal. So we're going to look at our question here and look, there's our one digit, which means that the decimal is going to go there, and we get an answer of 887.0. So that's all it is. It's just looking at our question, seeing where the decimal is in the number and putting it there. Now, one side note, okay, just for later, is you may get a question like this. 3.4, let's say, multiplied by 2.3. Well, this question has two numbers that have decimals. Each of them has one number after the decimal, okay? But there are two. So that means that we have 1, 2. That means you're going to move it 2 places. So that means that if you had your answer of 870, you wouldn't actually put it here. You would put the decimal here because you had 1 decimal place, 2 decimal place for 2. Now I know that's kind of confusing, and I'll go over that more in class tomorrow. There's not a lot of questions like that, but I thought I'd mention it just in case. So let's look at the next. There's nothing on that slide. We'll just go on. Here we go. So the last example. So to go along what we just talked about over there in step 2, we'll try this again. So we have 5.2 multiplied by 3.6. So if we had step 1, we would write them down without decimals. So 52 times 36 for step 1 because we're removing the decimals. We are going to multiply. So 6 times 2 is 12. We put our 1 up top. 6 times 5 is 30, with 1 becomes 31, which gives us 312. We add our place value. We have 3 multiplied by 2, because we're working on this side now. 3 multiplied by 2 gives us 6, and 3 multiplied by 5 gives us 15. So when we add this all together, 2 plus 0 is 2, 1 plus 6 is 7, 3 plus 5 is 8, and 1 plus obviously 0 is 1. So we have our answer of 1872. Now in step 2, it said we needed to take that number and we needed to count how many digits come after the decimals in the question. So looking at our question, we've got 1 digit that comes after a decimal, 2 digits. So 2 digits, so we look here, we need 2 digits, that's 1 digit, 2 digit, there we go, and our answer becomes 18.72. And that's pretty much all there is to it, is just making sure that you're counting How many digits come after decimals? And moving your decimal that many places in your answer, and that's it. So that's it for today. And I understand that this might be a little bit new for you, and just like before, we will go over this again tomorrow in class. We'll review it, and then if you are having trouble, don't be scared to ask me, and I'll help you one-on-one. But that is it for today. So that's it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow in class.